He was born in a quiet town, where the rhythm of everyday life seemed ordinary to anyone who passed through. Yet beneath the calm surface, the instincts that would one day define him were quietly forming. As a boy, he exhibited a remarkable patience, a sharp eye, and a steady hand, qualities that would later become the hallmarks of a legendary marksman. Hours spent observing wildlife, tracking movement, and honing his aim with rudimentary firearms laid the foundation for skills that were to be tested under the most extreme circumstances imaginable. Every sunrise brought with it lessons in focus, patience, and observation, qualities that would one day be applied not to sport, but to survival and precision in the chaos of war. His early education was unremarkable in the eyes of his peers, yet the discipline and curiosity he cultivated would prove invaluable. He devoured stories of military history, learning about tactics, marksmanship, and strategy from books that lined the shelves of local libraries. He studied the techniques of sharpshooters past, analyzing their patience, calculation, and the meticulous planning that turned individual skill into strategic impact. Each story became a blueprint, a lesson in observation, and the application of focus under pressure. The young boy was quietly preparing, unaware that the foundation of his extraordinary future was being built with each hour of study and practice. When he reached the age of enlistment, joining the military seemed both a natural step and a challenge to his developing abilities. Basic training introduced him to the realities of discipline, endurance, and physical resilience. The repetition of drills, the early mornings, and the rigorous exercises were more than preparation. They were a crucible designed to test and temper the raw potential he possessed. Yet it was during these formative weeks that he began to understand the interplay between mind and body, recognizing that precision required not only skill but also control, patience, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. His instructors noticed his steady hand, his ability to anticipate movement, and a remarkable focus that set him apart from others. Specialized sniper training marked the next phase of his transformation. Here, every detail mattered: camouflage, concealment, observation, and marksmanship. He learned to move silently across terrain, to read the environment, to anticipate the paths of both friend and foe. Each drill was designed to simulate real-life combat scenarios, forcing him to adapt, improvise, and maintain focus over hours, even days. The use of ghillie suits, the study of ballistics, the understanding of wind, distance, and environmental variables became second nature. Training was not merely about shooting. It was about thinking, planning, and understanding the consequences of every action in a theater where mistakes could mean life or death. The young marksman quickly distinguished himself among peers. He mastered long-range shooting, adjusting for factors that challenged even the most experienced shooters. Shifting wind patterns, changes in light, and the subtle movements of targets. Each success in training was meticulously recorded, studied, and analyzed. He learned from failures, using them as opportunities to refine his technique, strengthen his focus, and deepen his understanding of the art of precision. The ability to remain patient, to wait for the perfect moment to act, became his defining trait. Beyond technique, the training instilled a philosophy of preparation and awareness. He understood that sniping was not just a skill but a mindset. The quiet observation, the anticipation, the discipline to remain unseen while influencing events from a distance. Each exercise, each simulation, reinforced the understanding that a single, well-placed shot could alter the course of a battle, that patience and calculation could be as decisive as an entire unit in motion. His instructors emphasized mental resilience, teaching him to manage fear, stress, and the weight of responsibility, shaping not only his skill but also his character. As deployment approached, he was no longer the boy with a steady hand and sharp eyes. He had become a soldier, a strategist, a silent observer trained to move through the chaos of battle with focus and precision. Every lesson from childhood, every hour of practice, every drill in training converged to prepare him for the trials ahead. The foundation of patience, observation, and discipline that had been laid quietly over years would now be tested under the most extreme conditions, in environments where skill, courage, and mental fortitude were the only guarantees of survival. The stage was set for extraordinary feats. Early life and training had forged not just a marksman, but a legend in the making. Someone whose precision, patience, and skill would etch his name into the annals of American military history. Each heartbeat, each breath, each calculated movement was a prelude to a career defined by extraordinary accomplishment, unwavering focus, and an unbroken commitment to mastery in the art of sniping. The boy who once practiced quietly in the fields had become the man who would never miss. His first deployment into the combat zone was a baptism by fire, a trial where every lesson from training would be tested against the unpredictable chaos of war. The environment was harsh and unforgiving. Dense jungles, shifting terrain, and the ever-present threat of enemy patrols. Every sound, every movement, every shadow could signal danger. Yet he moved with the confidence of a trained marksman, applying every technique he had learned, every calculation and observation sharpened to perfection. The first mission was not about glory or recognition. It was about survival, observation, and understanding the real battlefield in a way that no classroom or training drill could replicate. The sniper quickly adapted to the rhythms of combat, learning to read the land as if it were a living entity. He studied trails for signs of enemy movement, listened for distant sounds, and anticipated the actions of soldiers whose presence he could not yet see. Each mission was an exercise in patience and discipline, often requiring hours or even days of immobile observation, waiting for the precise moment to act. He became a ghost in the landscape, a silent presence whose effectiveness depended on remaining unseen, unheard, and unnoticed by the very soldiers he was there to neutralize. Early successes reinforced his confidence, but also revealed the gravity of his responsibility. Every shot required calculation, distance, wind, humidity, angle, and even the physiological state of the target. One miscalculation could endanger not only his life, but that of fellow soldiers relying on his precision. Yet he developed a rhythm, an intuition honed by training and sharpened in the crucible of combat. Each successful engagement reinforced the delicate balance between patience and action, calculation and instinct. The sniper also faced challenges that tested his mental resilience. Extended periods of immobility led to physical strain, discomfort, and fatigue. Constant vigilance was exhausting. Every rustle, every bird call could signal danger or opportunity. The psychological burden was immense. To take a life from afar, to remain invisible yet present, to act decisively without hesitation. But through it all, he maintained focus, employing mental techniques to calm his thoughts, control his breathing, and keep his mind razor sharp. Discipline and patience became as important as any weapon or ammunition. Each mission was also a lesson in improvisation. Terrain often differed from maps, weather conditions were unpredictable, and enemy behavior was never entirely predictable. The sniper adapted to each situation, using foliage, shadows, and natural contours to conceal himself while maintaining a clear line of sight. He learned to anticipate patrol patterns, identify weak points in enemy defenses, and select targets that would maximize strategic impact. Every engagement was not only a test of marksmanship, but also of tactical intelligence and situational awareness. The sniper's reputation began to grow among his peers and commanders, though often in whispers or reports rather than public acclaim. Stories circulated of an unseen soldier whose presence could shift the outcome of an operation. whose precision eliminated threats with a single, well-placed shot. Yet he remained focused on the mission, understanding that recognition was secondary to effectiveness. His commitment to the craft of sniping was absolute, rooted in preparation, observation, and an unwavering sense of responsibility. He also observed the broader context of war, learning to see beyond individual targets. Every shot was part of a larger strategic picture, influencing enemy movements, disrupting operations, and providing opportunities for advancing units. The sniper understood the ripple effects of precision, the way a single action could alter the battlefield in subtle but profound ways. This awareness deepened his tactical understanding and reinforced the importance of patience, timing, and calculation in every decision. By the end of his early deployments, the sniper had transformed from a trainee into a master of stealth, observation, and precision. He had faced real danger, made split-second calculations under pressure, and proven the value of discipline, patience, and mental resilience. Each mission refined his skills, honed his instincts, and prepared him for legendary feats yet to come. The battlefield had become both his classroom and his proving ground, where every engagement, every observation, and every decision contributed to the development of an unparalleled marksman. The first deployments also revealed the emotional and moral dimensions of his role. Observing, targeting, and eliminating threats from a distance demanded composure, ethical reflection, and psychological fortitude. The sniper learned to reconcile the necessity of action with the weight of consequence, understanding that mastery of skill was inseparable from mastery of mind. In these early missions, the foundations were laid for a career defined by precision, courage, and an almost preternatural ability to influence the battlefield from afar. By the time he reached the height of his deployments, he had become more than a soldier. He had become an instrument of precision, patience, and strategy. Each mission was carefully planned, with reconnaissance, terrain analysis, and target assessment executed to perfection. His reputation among allies and commanders grew quietly but steadily, rooted not in boastful accounts but in the tangible impact of his actions. Every engagement, every well-placed shot had consequences far beyond the immediate battlefield, shaping enemy movements, protecting units, and turning the tide in critical operations. One of his most notable missions took place deep behind enemy lines. Intelligence had identified a high-value target whose elimination would disrupt enemy operations and provide a strategic advantage. The sniper infiltrated hostile territory under the cover of darkness, moving silently across dense terrain, his every step calculated to avoid detection. For hours he observed, noting patrol patterns, wind direction, and light conditions. Every detail mattered. A single miscalculation could compromise the mission and imperil his own life. When the moment arrived, he fired with absolute precision, neutralizing the target and creating a ripple effect that allowed Allied forces to advance with minimal resistance. Other missions demonstrated his adaptability and improvisational skill. In situations where terrain was unfamiliar or enemy behavior unpredictable, he relied on intuition honed through countless hours of observation and practice. He became adept at using natural cover, trees, shadows, terrain folds, to conceal himself while maintaining a clear line of sight. Environmental factors such as wind, humidity, and lighting were analyzed in real time, allowing him to make adjustments that ensured every shot counted. These moments were a testament to his mental acuity, blending science, instinct, and skill into decisive action. His legendary feats were not limited to eliminating enemy combatants. On multiple occasions, his precision prevented collateral damage and protected civilians or allied forces. The sniper understood the moral and strategic implications of each shot, balancing effectiveness with responsibility. This awareness elevated his work from mere marksmanship to a form of battlefield stewardship, where calculation, patience, and ethical consideration intertwined to produce outcomes of lasting significance. The psychological dimension of his missions was equally important. By remaining unseen, unpredictable, and untraceable, he instilled caution and uncertainty within enemy ranks. Soldiers reported unusual casualties, unexplained eliminations, and the ever-present sense of a hidden threat. This fear and hesitation disrupted enemy operations, forced them to alter their movements, and provided strategic advantages without direct confrontation. His presence alone, invisible yet potent, shaped the course of engagements in ways that conventional forces could not. One mission involved neutralizing an enemy sniper who had been targeting Allied supply lines. Through careful observation, he identified the adversary's position and habits. Using camouflage, patience, and precise timing, he eliminated the threat without revealing his own location. This act not only protected vital resources, but also demonstrated his ability to anticipate and counter enemy strategies, a skill that would define his career. Throughout these legendary missions, his personal discipline was unwavering. Long periods of immobility, extreme environmental conditions, and mental pressure tested both body and mind. Yet he maintained focus, breathing carefully, monitoring the slightest changes in movement, light, and sound. Each engagement was approached with a meticulous blend of preparation and instinct, where every variable was considered and every action calculated. This extraordinary combination of patience, skill, and awareness allowed him to achieve results that seemed impossible to ordinary observers. The cumulative effect of these missions extended far beyond individual encounters. His precision reshaped tactical landscapes, altered enemy deployments, and created opportunities for Allied units to exploit vulnerabilities. The sniper became a force multiplier, achieving outcomes that magnified the effectiveness of conventional forces. His work demonstrated that impact on the battlefield was not measured solely by numbers or firepower, but by the ability to influence events with intelligence, strategy, and skill. By the end of this period, his legend was firmly established. Stories of his accuracy, patience, and strategic insights circulated among soldiers and commanders. Yet much of his work remained classified or unpublicized. Despite operating largely in silence and anonymity, his missions had tangible and lasting effects, protecting lives, disrupting enemy operations, and establishing a standard for snipers to follow for generations. In every sense, he had become the embodiment of precision, patience, and unwavering resolve. The quintessential American sniper. The sniper's skill with a rifle was only one aspect of what made him legendary. The true foundation of his effectiveness lay in the mind. Combat, particularly the silent, isolated kind that defines sniping, demanded mental resilience, focus, and an unshakable command over one's emotions. Every shot required calculation, patience, and awareness of variables that could change in an instant. Wind shifts, enemy movement, terrain factors, and even the subtle sway of a heartbeat. Mental discipline became as essential as physical training, for without it, the precision he relied upon could falter, and lives, both his own and those of fellow soldiers, could be lost. The process of remaining unseen was as much psychological as it was practical. Hours spent lying motionless in foliage or behind natural cover tested both endurance and concentration. Time became a fluid concept, minutes stretched into hours with every second requiring vigilance. The sniper learned to regulate his breathing, heart rate, and thoughts, entering a state of heightened awareness where perception and intuition merged. It was a balance between alertness and calm, between anticipation and patience, where the mind became the ultimate weapon. Stress management was a constant challenge. Combat zones offered little respite, with the threat of detection, counter-snipers, or ambushes ever present. He developed mental techniques to control fear and anxiety, focusing attention on actionable details rather than the overwhelming chaos around him. Visualization played a key role, imagining the environment, rehearsing each action, and mentally preparing for potential scenarios. These practices allowed him to maintain clarity of thought even under the most extreme pressure, ensuring that each decision was deliberate, precise, and effective. Ethical consideration also weighed heavily on his mind. Every target represented a human life, and the sniper understood the gravity of his role. Decisions were never taken lightly. Each shot required a justification rooted in necessity, strategic importance, and the potential to protect others. This moral awareness reinforced discipline, emphasizing that skill and precision must always be tempered by judgment and responsibility. In many ways, the mental challenges of sniping surpassed physical ones, demanding an inner strength that few could comprehend. Training in focus and observation carried over seamlessly into active combat. The sniper honed the ability to notice subtle cues, movement in foliage, changes in light, sound anomalies that could indicate enemy presence or opportunity. These insights allowed him to make split-second decisions with calculated confidence. Observation became both art and science. The ability to read terrain, anticipate enemy behavior, and predict outcomes before they unfolded. Mental discipline ensured that intuition and analysis worked in tandem, transforming perception into decisive action. Isolation amplified the need for psychological resilience. Operating alone or with minimal support required self-reliance and inner fortitude. Loneliness, exhaustion, and tension could erode focus. Yet he maintained composure, using mental strategies to sustain attention and performance. The balance between alertness and relaxation, between action and patience, was constantly practiced. Mastery of the mind became a prerequisite for mastery of the rifle. Decision-making under uncertainty was another critical aspect. The sniper rarely had complete information. Wind, weather, and enemy movement introduced variables that could never be fully controlled. He learned to weigh probabilities, assess risks, and choose courses of action that maximized effectiveness while minimizing exposure. Each choice demanded judgment, foresight, and confidence, blending analysis with instinct in a delicate equilibrium. Mental discipline ensured that hesitation or doubt would not compromise the mission. Focus extended beyond individual engagements to strategic awareness. Understanding how each action influenced the broader battlefield allowed him to contribute to operations in ways that transcended individual targets. The sniper became a force multiplier, where the precision of a single shot could enable maneuvering, protect troops, or alter enemy deployment. Maintaining mental clarity allowed him to see not only what lay directly before him, but also the potential ripple effects of every decision, transforming perception into tactical advantage. Ultimately, the mind and discipline of the sniper defined his legacy as much as his marksmanship. His ability to remain composed under pressure, to observe and interpret his environment, and to act with calculated precision allowed him to achieve extraordinary results. The combination of psychological resilience, focus, ethical awareness, and tactical insight became inseparable from his identity as a soldier. In the theater of war, where chaos and uncertainty dominate, mastery of the mind was the ultimate weapon, enabling a single man to wield influence far beyond his immediate presence, and to etch his place in history as the deadliest American sniper. The sniper's story did not end with the conclusion of his combat missions. Though his feats were largely classified or unpublicized at the time, the impact of his actions resonated far beyond individual battles. Commanders relied on the results of his precision, seeing how a single well-placed shot could shift enemy movements, protect allied units, and influence strategic outcomes. Over time, recognition grew, both formally and informally, as historians, military analysts, and fellow soldiers began to document and share the extraordinary nature of his contributions. Awards and honors eventually acknowledged not just his technical skill, but also his discipline, courage, and strategic insight. Medals, commendations, and accolades recognize the combination of intellect, patience, and bravery that allowed him to operate alone, unseen, and highly effective. Each recognition served as a reminder that heroism is not always measured by visibility or spectacle, but by the tangible outcomes of dedication, precision, and commitment to a mission larger than oneself. His influence on modern military sniping and tactical doctrine cannot be overstated. Training programs in the United States and Allied forces drew lessons from his techniques, emphasizing camouflage, patience, observation, and the integration of mental resilience with physical skill. Every element he perfected, long-range targeting, environmental analysis, mental preparation, and operational discipline, became a blueprint for generations of snipers. In many ways, his legacy shaped how modern soldiers approach stealth, strategy, and the human mind's role in combat effectiveness. Beyond the technical and tactical lessons, his story serves as an inspiration. Soldiers, historians, and civilians alike can study the intersection of skill, patience, and intellect, understanding how one person's mastery can influence outcomes far beyond what might seem possible. His example demonstrates that dedication, ethical awareness, and mental discipline are as crucial as physical prowess. By observing his journey, future generations learn that extraordinary achievement requires preparation, resilience, and the courage to act decisively when opportunity arises. The sniper's legacy also redefines the notion of heroism in warfare. Traditional views often focus on numbers, firepower, or public recognition, but his contributions illustrate a subtler form of influence, one that is quiet, precise, and strategic. The ability to shape events through skill, patience, and intellect, often unseen and unheralded, demonstrates the diverse forms heroism can take. His story reminds us that impact is not always measured by visibility, but by the consequences of one's actions and the protection and advantage provided to others. Historical significance extends to the broader understanding of warfare itself. His methods highlight how precision, intelligence, and mental discipline can complement conventional military operations, transforming individual skill into strategic advantage. Lessons drawn from his experience inform modern doctrines, psychological preparation, and the evolving role of specialized units in contemporary conflict. In essence, he redefined the potential of individual contribution within the larger machinery of war. Even decades later, the sniper's story captivates, educates, and inspires. His combination of talent, courage, and dedication stands as a testament to human potential under extreme conditions. Scholars, military strategists, and enthusiasts study his actions to understand how meticulous preparation, psychological resilience, and ethical judgment combine to create outcomes that shape history. Each account, each mission, and each strategic success adds to a legacy that transcends time, teaching the enduring power of focus, skill, and disciplined courage. Ultimately, the sniper's life exemplifies the convergence of mind, body, and principle. His precision, patience, and ethical awareness defined not only his actions, but also the lasting lessons for those who follow. The legacy he leaves is not merely in awards or accolades, but in the example set for future soldiers, the strategies he influenced, and the understanding that extraordinary mastery can alter history without spectacle or fanfare. Through his story, the deadliest American sniper remains a symbol of how intellect, courage, and unwavering discipline can achieve outcomes that resonate far beyond the battlefield, shaping both military practice and the broader narrative of heroism.